Hello and welcome back to another episode of Math with Sohn. Today we got a quick one, solving by taking square roots. So let's say we have something like 3x squared plus 15 is equal to 0. So solving a quadratic equation can involve factoring or completing the square quadratic formula. However, if there is only an x squared and numbers and no middle term, like an x term, like 2x, 3x, 5x, if it's only an x squared term, you can just solve and pretend that that's not squared and solve this equation like normal with pretending that it is not an x squared at all. You get 3x, technically squared, is equal to negative 5. And you're going to pretend that it's not squared and divide by 3. If we divide by 3, 15, excuse me. If we divide by 3, you get x squared is equal to negative 5. And then once it's an x squared equals a number, you just square root. That's all you do. You square root. X would equal plus or minus the square root of negative 5. Now, if you're in Algebra 1, this would be considered no solution because you can't square root a negative number. But if you're in Algebra 2, you should realize that if it is a negative number, you take out the I and leave it a positive 5, denoting that that is the square root of a negative number. Do not ever forget your plus or minus. If you are solving with square roots, you have to include the plus or minus. But that's it. That's all you got to do. You got to have the recognition and the foresight that the x squared means you set it equal to 0, not set it equal to 0, move those numbers over, solve like a normal x, and just square root. All right, so we're going to do a few others, but they're going to go quick. So let's say we have something like, 5x squared plus 20 equals 120. So a bigger number. Subtract 20. Subtract 20. This is going to involve a lot of 20s. I think I had 20 on my mind. Because when we subtract 20, we end up with 100. But then I immediately have to divide by 5. And I end up with x squared is equal to 20. And then I square root. Now here's where solving by square root still involves some actual math, because you do need to write this in simplified factor square rooty form. And the way you do that is by breaking down the 20 to 2 and 10, and then 2 and 5. You're looking for pairs. I show how to do this simplifying a square root in a different video, but the number that is paired up goes on the outside, and the number that is left over goes on the inside. And we have 2 square root of 5. Now you can also get the decimal, but most teachers are going to be expecting the radical solution, not the decimal solution on these bad boys. All right, let's do one more, maybe 2. So let's say we have something simple like 5x squared, 25x squared equals 4. Simple, right? Divide by 25, divide by 25. If this were to simplify, you might want to consider simplifying it. 4 over 25 does not simplify, though. Square root both sides, and then you end up with a predicament, but you're like, oh, how do I square root that? Well, you can square root the top and square root the bottom individually, and you can never, ever forget your plus or minus. The square root of 4 is 2, and the square root of 25 is 5. So that means that the answer to this is plus or minus 2 over 5, which if your answer is not a square root, a lot of times you'll see, even if it is a square root, the answer is listed out as 2 square root of 5 and negative 2, not even a square root of 5, 2 over 5 and negative 2 over 5, because that's what the plus or minus means. It means there's a positive and a negative version of that answer. All right? So one more. This is an upgrade problem. It's going to look similar to this. Let's say you have 3x squared equals 4. 3x squared is equal to 4. If you divide by 3, 4 doesn't divide by 3. But here's the difference. When we square root this one, the 4 will square root. X would equal plus or minus, the square root of 4 is 2, but the 3 does not square root. And if you have a radical on the bottom of an equation, you're not supposed to keep it there. And this is similar to if you had an I on the bottom of the equation, you can't keep it there either. If you have a square root on the bottom of the equation, you're not supposed to keep it there. What you need to do is multiply by whatever it is, the square root of 3 in this case, over the square root of 3. And if you do that, you end up with 2 square root of 3 over technically the square root of 9, but the square root of 9 is just 3. Do not forget your plus or minus, but this would be the official way to write that answer. You're not supposed to keep it as the square root of 3 on the bottom. And the reason why is because this is still like doing an operation. 2 divided by the square root of 3, and you're like, I don't know what that is. But this version, you could technically say it's plus or minus 2/3 a square root of 3, which is okay. It's just the formal way to do it. I don't know what to tell you. If you have multiple choice, this is going to be how it is listed out. They're not going to keep it as the square root on the bottom of the fraction. But the good news is the majority of scientific calculators will do that for you already if you were willing to type it in. Told you it was going to be a quick one, though. That's the last problem. I will see everybody later. I hope you have a good one. Bye.